Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to Archi. We have a very special portfolio review today. We'll go through one of our viewers' portfolio and make some changes on screen, and at the same time, comment on my thought process. As we always say, there's no right answer in design, but we hope that will give you some ideas that you can try implementing in your own portfolio. So without further ado, let's get started. First and foremost, as you may have seen from the previous screen, she's really not afraid to use bold colors and bold typography, so I'll try my best to preserve them as much as possible while improving readability through various strategies. Here we are in InDesign with her portfolio open. Her cover page looks great. I love this interesting lines that she has added, and she's given us very vibrant tone to start off with. And this is well reflected throughout her portfolio, which I think is done really well. Alright, so let's move on to the next page. So next spread involves personal profile as well as some resume. My first impression with a resume was that it felt crowded. So let's see what we can do. So here are some principles that might be useful throughout the entire portfolio, which is to give some white space and give better hierarchy to text without having to exaggerate them. So as of now, as you can see, white space is almost nowhere to be found. And second thing is, some texts are really exaggerated in terms of sizes and color. Let's find more subtle ways to express the same information without confusion. So one of the easiest ways to create white space obviously is to remove information. And as I was going through this portfolio, I felt like there were a couple. So for example, working at the kitchen probably isn't too relevant for architectural application. So I'll go ahead and remove that. And maybe I'll go ahead and remove this model photography as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and select all these texts and remove the coloring. Okay, so from here, I'm going to be playing around a lot with text. It's going to be playing around with font sizes as well as character styles and spacings between them to make them more readable without having to exaggerate different fonts. So as you can see, previously, the title font, the name was 48 points and the body text was only 11 or 9 points. So I decided to make the points come a little bit closer together. So the smallest font size is 11 point and the biggest one is only 24. Now here's a note for you. You don't have to make the fonts vastly different in order to make them hierarchically different. You can simply play around with different weights and coloring to make the distinctions. We still have the same amount of information without having to consume as much space. So now second thing is, I've decided to remove some more experiences in order to provide additional space. And as you can see, I still felt like I was in a gridlock, but after that, it starts to free up a little bit. And after that, setting text was transformed a little bit. They were turned into slightly smaller font, but because they're bold as well as they're all caps, they're still able to be distinguished quite distinctly from the other texts. I've decided to reduce the spacing, the line spacing for the dates, and abbreviated the name of the month in order to provide more horizontal space. Now that becomes instrumental in providing the right space on the gutter, margin on the right side, and allows you to give more professional look to your portfolio. Now we're moving on to the left column, where I'm adjusting the icons to be smaller. And what's really great about icons is that they're meant to be functional even when they're scaled small. So now that we have smaller fonts and smaller icons, we're able to save a lot more space. I went ahead and copied the font styles from the sections on the right, and that seems to work pretty well on the left side as well. I've went ahead and spaced out the scales dot, and that really removed the sense of crowdedness that we used to have. Aside from all that, I focused on removing some redundant information and reducing the number of lines to make the resume more readable. And these subtle things really add up in the end. They were just one move at a time, but overall picture becomes completely different. Let's compare it with how it used to be and how it is now. To be perfectly fair, we have lost a little bit of her character as well as a bit of information, so we can't say that it's completely 100% better design. However, I'm glad that we were able to arrive at this state that has better readability and spacing, so perhaps the reader can spend more time focusing on the good information. Alright, so that's probably enough on the resume, so let's move on to the other pages of the portfolio. So I wanted to use this page as an example to show you kind of a thought process that goes into designing a page. So here's what we're given with. This is a concept explanation for this project called XPlay. So first off, as with the other pages we've mentioned so far, we could use some work on creating white space. So the number one rule with white space obviously is to have less content. If you want to keep all the text, then the second thing you can do is to scale them down. So let's see what we can do in this page. I'm going to go ahead and take these diagrams and make them a little bit smaller. Squeeze them. And especially when your diagrams are simple, they look even better when they're scaled down. Now for the next little while, I'm going to be editing the text. And as with the previous section, I'm going to be making the title fonts a little bit smaller, but exaggerate them using bold, weight, and all caps font size. And the second thing is, I'm reducing the body size to 11 points and giving it bigger line height. By rule of thumb, I like to give 1.5 times the font height as the line height, and that gives us a lot more breathing room and spaces between the lines, so that readers are more likely to pay attention to your text. Moving on to the right side of the spread. Now the thing about this page is that there's a really good play happening between the left and right side. So as you can see, this project is comprised of multitude of very geometric shapes, and it's quite evident from the plans. But section on the other hand doesn't quite tell that same story. So I've went ahead and removed the section from the top of the page and applied the same rules to the rest of the page. Now let's go ahead and compare it to what it used to be. Alright, and for this project, I wanted to show you guys a slightly different approach to perhaps organizing your narrative. So here's the third project of this portfolio. And as you can see, every project starts with this very consistent title page, which I really appreciate. It's got a little band that captures the essence of the project, followed by a complementary icon. So let's dig into what this project is all about. So as you can see, there is a bit of a concept development on the left side of this spread. Now on the right side, we have a section through it. And on the subsequent pages, we have some 3D views, which does an excellent job in illustrating the playfulness of this project. Now, one thing I noticed about this narrative is that I think it felt a little bit out of order. So for example, on the left side here, this concept is based on deconstructing some of the existing elements of architecture and reassembling it into a playful structure. So if that is the narrative, then this concept shouldn't be at the bottom. In fact, because we read from top to bottom and left to right, it would make sense to place this at the top, and then followed by a text and diagram to describe how that actually works. So let me go ahead and quickly format this page. Alright, so to me, I think something like this would make sense. We start from the top where we see how the building components are developed, and then followed by, in axonometric format, how these components are coming together. Now, moving on from there, I also thought that was I could suggest changing up the order here. So for example, we're starting from outside in, right? Bigger picture first, and then we get smaller into details. But when we go to the next page, I feel like we're stepping out again. I thought it might make sense to actually swap these sectional drawings with the 3D views, so that the viewers can get a better sense of what this 3D geometry looks like on the same page. So having said that, if this were to happen like that, what happens on the next page? So following up on what we were just mentioning, I think this makes sense with outside-in perspective. We talk about the exterior form first, and then we get into what the nitty-gritty floor plan and section looks like. Now, this text probably belongs to the 3D view, so would it make sense to bring this over to where this was? At the moment, I kind of enjoy how minimal this page looks like, so I would actually consider moving this down over here, or maybe even splitting it over. I'll take half of these text and then move it over to this page. And then keep the other half on this page. Okay, and as per the usual, we're giving ample amount of space on all sides of the page, and we have split up the text so that they are more reader friendly. What do you think about this arrangement? Maybe go through your own portfolio and find opportunities to rearrange your content so that it becomes easier and convincing for your readers. And that is it for today, but if you would like to get a review just like this one for your own portfolio, make sure to check out the link in the description for private portfolio review sessions. Our website is also full of portfolio and other resources to make your life easier, such as portfolio template and portfolio checklist. So make sure to take a visit and see what you can get. And last but not least, if you would like to learn more about InDesign tips and tricks and all the shortcuts that I've been using in this video, make sure to check out our previous video on InDesign tips and tricks. It's been Archi, and I'll see you in the next video.